Okay, this video is on your final paper. Okay, the final paper. I have provided a final paper handout for you, both in terms of um, an overarching purpose of the final paper. You can read all about that on Canvas, um, and do look at that closely. Again, you have three paper options: historical research paper, paper prompt 1, or paper prompt 2 options. And even within those prompt options, you have sort of sub options for yourself. Okay. The historical research paper is something that is, everyone's required to write a paper. The historical research paper is a little bit different. You have a lot more freedom to write on whatever you want, just so long as it intersects with the history of the university. Anything pertaining to the history of the university in Europe, in the United States, within the frame of our time, right? And students over the courses of the years I've taught this have chosen some really cool topics, like things I've learned a lot from. It's been really neat. And so you'll be required to engage in secondary sources, primary sources. You can use archives, you can do whatever you want, and I'm here to help you with that. If you choose the historical research paper option, you will be required to draft a prospectus. And in brief, what that is simply is, as the word means, prospectus. It's kind of like seeing in advance, like setting a vision for the paper, right? That prospectus, it's fully expected that you'll change as you write, right? So it's just helping you draft sort of a roadmap. You're imagining what you might want to write about, okay? So again, it's not set in stone. Just like any paper writing project, whether it's the historical research paper or the prompt, even like your thesis, it's a working thesis, right? You're developing it. Sometimes as you're typing it out, the paper's shape is changing. That's fine, right? We'll say more about that. So historical research paper is about anything you want to write about, so long as it relates to or intersects with the history of the university. It gives you a lot of options. So I'm here to help you narrow your argument, help you think creatively about your interests. Again, and for both the historical research paper and the prompt, I want to stress this. I want you to be thinking about your interests. You write about what you want to write about, right? There's freedom in these paper options in every respect to write about what you're most interested in, okay? Now, for the prompts, take a look at those prompts in advance, prompt 1 and prompt 2. As I mentioned in the syllabus video, these prompts are coming right out of the syllabus, right out of the course description. That's very intentional, designed for you to basically enter into the syllabus, enter into the course content with your paper in mind, right? So in other words, let's say, for example, you choose paper prompt 2, okay? Paper prompt 2 has to do with, let's see here, I'm gonna pull it up. All right, about themes, where I'm asking you to select one theme listed above in the first paragraph in which I describe, or about any theme that's not listed there that you want to focus on, right? The idea here is that you're going to write a paper in which you trace that theme throughout the course, right? So let's say it's the inclusion or exclusion of women in the university, or people of color in the university, or let's say it's about academic freedom. Let's say it's about credentialing, right? Whatever it might be, right? If you have a sense for what you might want to write about, right, you'll notice as you read, these themes are just going to bubble up to the surface because you're just going to notice them. It's like when you get a new car, right? And every car on the road is like your car. It's sort of like that, right? You'll begin to just notice these themes. So that's why I'm really stressing, acquaint yourself well with the paper prompts, or with sort of, with what you want to do for writing the paper, and the syllabus, because then, note this, you'll be noticing not only those themes, but you might be inclined to write your colloquium and symposium and interpretive commentaries on those themes, right? on texts that speak to those themes. In other words, it's like think of your colloquium and symposium, and then interpretive commentary assignments as research for your paper, right? Like it's already starting. So that's the idea. That's how I want you to kind of treat entering into this class. Full disclosure, this is kind of what I've done as a student, right? You guys know that I'm studying John Muir. When I first came to my PhD program here in 2018, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to write about. I knew I had these interests, which I'm asking you to be thinking about, but I didn't yet know, oh, John Muir is my person, right? Once I discovered that, everything I read, of course, like within reason, right? But everything I read, every class I took, I was always asking myself, how can this serve my dissertation? How can this help me understand John Muir and his world? And I have other considerations too. Like I want to understand the topics that the professors are guiding me through, right? But for example, when I took an intellectual history class, which this class is kind of, this class that I'm teaching with you is inflecting an intellectual historical way of entering the history of the university, and you'll learn more about what that means in time. But when I took that class, yeah, I had to read all the books that the professor assigned for me, and I had to take them on their own terms, right? Just like you're reading the articles and things for this class. But I was always thinking about my project. I was always thinking about Muir. I was always thinking about my preliminary exams and things like that, right? That's what I'm asking you to do here with this paper writing, is just to be thinking about what am I interested in, and how can I learn from these readings for their own sake, right? In terms of the broader history of the university. But how can I let these articles and primary sources serve me, right, in my project, in this case, your paper. So there's that. So do acquaint yourself. And as far as the historical research paper is concerned, you may find that there's something in this course that you're like, whoa, I never knew about that. And that's really cool. And I want to dig into that. Like, for example, last semester, I never talked about this, but there was a point in the semester where, I talked about it briefly, but there was a point in the semester, I think, where I mentioned, where we were talking about curriculum, we were talking about, STEM and humanities, and of course that includes mathematics. And a mathematics student, a major in math, was in the class, and this student was like, well, can I do a paper on the history of like the math teaching in the university in this particular time? I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. I mean, it was a great paper. It was really cool. I learned a lot. And so, and it was something that this person loved, right? It was not hard for them to write about this thing because they were just like, yeah, this is great. So anyway, that's the idea. This is getting a little too long anyway. Notice the formatting, really important information there, really, really important. Not just notice the formatting, notice the word count, page count, that kind of thing. The use of AI, those comments there. If you have any questions, just reach out.